Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Building Blocks. I'm Brian Fitzy, and today I figured just talk about one of my favorite things, synthesizers, specifically synthesizers that you can really dig in, get your hands in there, and change sounds and shape sounds. Today we're going to work on the Roland JX03, which is one of their little boutique synthesizers. It's actually just a little module that connects to a keyboard dock, and you can control these over standard mini DIN connectors. I believe there's a way that you can control this over USB as well, but we're just going to be controlling it with the built-in keyboard that's on this dock. This is a pretty cool little synthesizer. You have polyphony of 4 voices with this, so you can play extended harmony chords, you can play a basic triad, and then on top of that, a 7th or a 9th or a 13th or an 11 or whatever, or any kind of suspension, etc. So pretty enough for something that's got this few keys as the dock. It's fine. You're not going to play piano parts on a synthesizer like this because that's not what it was built for. So the 4-voice polyphony is cool. This synthesizer's got 2 different oscillator sections, and it has a voltage-controlled filter. It also has VCA and LFO, and you have control over the envelope of the sound. So you're able to shape all the different properties of the sound. I won't get into it today, but you should do a little bit of research for yourself about envelopes when talking about sound. There are 4 properties. You have attack, decay, sustain, and release. Those allow us to change the sound dramatically. So right now I've just got it set so whatever buttons, whatever controls I change here, whatever the controls are set to currently will automatically shape the sound. So I'm not working with any presets that I've created in here. But the variety that you can get out of this is incredible. So let's focus on the oscillator synths here. So the first one is pretty basic in its feature. The second one is a lot more full-fledged, and you also have the ability to control the oscillator synth and chain different sections of this synthesizer together. This isn't a true analog modular synthesizer at all, but it does a great job of convincing you that it is. that it is the old school real deal. So first thing we can do here is I'm just going to, I have the ability to blend these 2 oscillators. I'm going to set it so it just goes to the first oscillator. So right now it is set to 2 on its range. I'll show you what that sounds like. So what I can do immediately is I'll just drop this range back. We can instantly hear that it's going to a different octave, a different pitch class. So all right. You also have the ability to change the waveform shape. So right now I have this set to not quite a saw, also not quite a sine wave. You have saw, sine wave, triangle. I guess this is actually the triangle here. And you also have the ability for different white noise and pink noise on this, the synthesis of the waveform, the shape. So if you were to look at in your DAW, if you were to pull up in any wave editor, you're going to be able to actually see the shape of the wave. And that's going to be, I mean, if I played that synth and I recorded that synthesizer with it set to, for example, saw, you're actually going to see a saw blade shape in the waveform when you look at it in that editor. Sine wave is going to be just a nice, gentle, smooth wave going like that. Sine waves are usually my favorite when I'm trying to make like an 808 sounding bass. So for example, if I switch this over to sine wave, now I have the ability to change the cutoff frequency here. This is all the way down, so it's just letting the low frequencies through and it's smashing all the high frequencies. Now as I turn that all the way up, it's allowing those high frequencies through. So I'm not going to just focus on one little section at a time here. I'm going to jump around a little bit. So hopefully I don't lose you guys. Here's the super low bass. We get some pretty crazy sounds there. I can switch on this oscillator, and all of a sudden we start getting that really warbly kind of sound there. That's controlled by a whole separate section, and I have the ability to detune it. I can change the rate, so let's actually bring the frequency up to here, and I'm going to engage the oscillator. So the second I flip that switch, you immediately hear that wah, wah, wah. All right. What I'll do here is I'll just change the rate of the oscillator now, the LFO here. So with it cranked all the way up, you hear that frequency there. I can pick the waveform of just the LFO and how it's going to directly impact the oscillator synth here. You guys can hear that difference right away. I'm going to keep it off. Now, I don't have the envelope engaged at all. The envelope is attack, decay, sustain, and release. Attack is going to be how quickly, when I press the key, will it actually start to make sound. Decay is how quickly the sound dies when you take your finger off the key. Sustain is how long that waveform stays sustained. Release, again, decay and release, these are all kind of connected terminology here. Let me give you some examples so you can just hear it live in the moment. So I'll set the attack all the way down, decay all the way down, sustain down, and release down. And we actually kind of have this repeating thing happening there, which is interesting. All right, now I just turned off the LFO. I brought the rate all the way back, and now we've got just a steady. There's this clicky thing going on there. So what I'll do is, let's mess around with the envelope a little bit. I'm going to just crank the decay all the way up, so everything else is all the way down. Immediately starts affecting it. Now I'll change the, I'll bring the decay all the way back, bring the attack up a little bit. Now you can hear with a slow attack, takes a little bit longer to get there. So if I wanted to get kind of like an organic synthesized violin sound, a really primitive sounding synthesized violin sound, I would get it by working with the attack, making the attack just a little bit slower. Now I'll turn the sustain up a little bit. I'll turn the release up a little bit. Now we can go back in and start messing with just the waveform. Get pretty crazy results right away. Let's blend in the other synthesizer, the other oscillator synth. I'll go all the way to that side. So right now we are set on a triangle wave. I'm going to switch over to a sawtooth. Now, right now this is set to polyphonic, so I can play chords on it. Really, really shrill sound right now with the saw, so maybe we'll dial back the range. If we bring the attack a bit slower. We're already kind of shaping this sound to get a bit. I can change the intonation of this too. I can change the tune. So if I was going to blend these two synthesizers together, I could just make this one a little bit out. So actually, I'll go 50-50. All right, now I just disabled the envelope being routed in here to this set. So I have my high pitch, and then I have my low pitch, which is the other synthesizer. They're set to different ranges, so they're in different octaves. So single note now, you're getting multiple pitches happening at the same time. I play chords. It's pretty wild sounding. Let's turn up some of the other controls here. Maybe mess around with the LFO just a little bit more. I'm not loving that little stab that comes around every single time. That's going to be dictated partially by the sustain here. So let's mess around with just a little bit more. I'll detune it just a touch. We have a master tune, which you can allow it to I can go as much as an octave. I can also use a fine tune, so just go just a little bit out of tune, which will make a sound wider. Now, maybe I bring up the bottom. It's starting to get crazy. I'm going to disable that. What a big change that is, going to changing the waveform from the saw. I love that filter sweep that we're getting there just naturally. We have all these other controls with the voltage controlled filter, different resonance. We have the ability to change a thing called pitch follow. You can hear there's different drops and different frequencies too. So we can immediately get some pretty wild sounds. I have other controls with the envelope. I also have a high pass filter which just lets the high frequencies come through. If I turn it all the way down, now I'm going to turn it up. When it's defeated, when it's turned all the way down, you can hear the bass frequencies come through a lot more, especially if I change the range, make these all lower, make this more of a bass synth. Now we're starting to get to like a crunchy 808 bass. Now if I turn the high pass up, we're actually going to lose that low frequency info. So for certain synthesizers, you're going to want to get rid of the low frequency information. Maybe I want to have those pitches be there but not have that bass information. So have low pitches but make them not sound like a bass instrument. Now, if I roll the cutoff back, which is kind of like the opposite of messing with a high-pass filter, because I'm actually going to cut high frequencies and only allow the low stuff through, we can get some pretty interesting results just messing with these two. If I turn the cutoff all the way down, so it's only letting bass information through, and I turn the high pass all the way up, we don't get anything out of this synthesizer. If you guys are listening with headphones right now, you're hearing that really, really, really shake. Lots of super low frequency information there. I'll show you a couple of quick little patches that I've made with this synthesizer. I've got my kind of early 90s hip-hop saw bass. I've got my 808 bass. I have a slightly dirty white noise one. And I have that little filter that comes in after you hold the key long enough. Interesting sound. Lots of synths. Synth pads. I have some leads, different lead tones. That one obviously has a slow attack and a very, very quick decay. Lots of different things that you can get out of this one synthesizer. Pretty cool. Anyways, this is just a little bit of a dive into some of the sounds that you can make out of something that is inherently this simple. Being able to shape the sounds is killer. There are plugins that you can get. I recommend checking out a company called Tal, T-A-L. They have a bunch of free plugins that will work in any environment that supports VST. And I believe they also have ported things over to function in Pro Tools, so the AAX format. It's a good way to dig in is to mess around with an oscillator synth. I'm pretty sure you've got access to these in GarageBand. The biggest thing that you can do is really to just load one up and just start turning knobs while you hold down a key. I'll hopefully be able to dig in a little bit more in a future episode. But again, let me know what you want to hear me talk about, so I can create content that you want to see. Keeps me going. It'll keep this going, and it'll keep you going. Have a great week. I'll see you next Wednesday.